All right, Marlon,
Yeah.
good to be here, brother.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. I know you're a pretty busy guy, doing a lot of stuff day to day, so appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, man.
I'm excited to be here, bro. And I'm excited for a few reasons. When we first met, that first conversation, I think you should tell how we first met as well. But
Yeah.
through that brief conversation we had, I think there were a lot of similarities between like you and I. Obviously different points, different stages in life, but
hmm
you know, for context, I want to create this podcast and Visionary Voices for people like me who don't necessarily know their purpose, right? And I know you were talking a lot in that initial, conversation about purpose, and you're starting to find that in your drive. I see. I'm sure you might see a little bit of yourself in me, like a young guy trying to go get it. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have you here because you're crushing it, and so again, appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, bro. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about just like the beginning. Obviously, I know you went to school in San Antonio and went to go play 3 seasons in the Canadian Football League,
hmm
which is cool. Just kind of start from the beginning, like how you grew up, your kind of living situation, that sort of thing, and then we
Yeah.
can kind of go to where you're at now.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I've been an athlete all my life. That's kind of what I've known. Eat, sleep, breathe. And my parents, together, up until I went to college. And that's kind of where like, you kind of saw a pivot in me, so to speak. I kind of retained like that high performance mindset and, working hard and things like that. But yeah, man, love sports. Football and basketball was my thing. I was a dual sport athlete in college and ultimately ended up playing football professionally in the Canadian Football League. But yeah, man, I always had a knack for just, we're talking about like visionary voices. Like I wanted to, I was just curious. It's always a curious person. And with that, I didn't always know why I did the things I did. So even though I was like, an athlete at this high level, I wasn't connected to why I did it,
Mm.
and
Like you're getting caught up in the routine. Is
getting
that
caught up in the routine. It
okay?
was very robotic, and I'm still dealing with that a little bit, but I have awareness about it now. I
Mm.
didn't have it in college. And really it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I started connecting with that. But just, I love team. I love being connected with other people. I love kind of everybody having a shared mission, striving towards something. So, naturally, I just, sports is what always kind of what I vibed with. And in our brand, like, we talk about bringing out the athlete within, and,
Yep.
we can get into that later, but it's just kind of cool just to kind of go down that road and still retain some of those initial things that you've picked up by coaches and things
Mm.
into the business life. So
It's funny because your sports life and your sports career kind of carried over. I feel like for some people and myself as well, I fell out of love with the game. I fell out of love with basketball, and I don't feel like I definitely think that a few things translated over to my life now from sports, like the camaraderie and building a good team and having a good mission. But for me, I don't feel like my purpose is dedicated to that. So it's very inspiring to see that you picked up things early in your life, and now, how old are you now?
34.
34. You're now 34, and it's still, it's there. It's apparent in your life,
Yeah.
today. So that's very cool. Dual sport. Did you get looked at for basketball too?
Yeah. So I played basketball. Some people might know these names. Jordan Clarkson,
Yeah.
Utah Jazz, and played with Andre Roberson. And I honestly thought, tell you the truth, I mean, I was good at both. I ended up playing basketball in my freshman year. So I went to a small private D2 school, got a full ride to play basketball there at St. Mary's.
Full ride.
Shout out to St. Mary's up in San Antonio. And then from there, that's when Larry Coker was coming over. He won a national championship with the Miami Hurricanes. His name rings. A lot of people know who he is. And he was coming to UTSA.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and this is
You played at UTSA, right?
I played at UTSA
Okay,
football.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll hit on some of this later, but during my freshman year at St. Mary's, that's when my parents got divorced, right?
Mm.
I was out on my own. I was doing really well, but this is when I started kind of doing things that could jeopardize my opportunity, like smoking weed excessively, things like that.
Mhm.
Everyone knows you're going to get drug tested. And I just didn't care, or I tried to like kind of weasel around it. But this is like that interesting time when I was still doing really well. I still was very connected to my team, but outside of my team, I was very isolated, very recluse. And this is when I was like, you know what? Like, the football team's coming here. I don't like this school. It's too small. I feel like everyone's in my business. And that's when I submitted some film to UTSA, and I was one of the actual first uh, recruits over to UTSA. Not a lot of people know that,
Really?
but I was one of the first ones that came over. So there was 2010 was like the red shirt year.
Mm.
I came over in 2009. So I was there working
Interesting.
out as if I was like on the team, but there was nothing happening yet. Yeah.
What position did you play
In basketball,
in football?
football is a defensive end. Hmm.
And okay, I'm sorry. Let's backtrack. So when you went over there, that's for football or for basketball?
To UTSA was
when
for
you
football.
okay,
Yeah.
and but when you were the first
Hmm.
like red shirt
Initially, yeah. Yeah, unofficially. So I had
unofficial.
met coaches and everything. I was coming over and I wasn't happy at St. Mary's. I actually had, this is like my first of many failed drug tests. I failed one there. And at D2, they can take away half your scholarship.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And if you're D1, they'll just cut you, or they got to keep you like on scholarship.
Hmm.
So I was like, fuck that. I'm going to go, I'm going to leave. I'm good enough to play. I played football. And then that's when I left to go to UTSA, was training, and no one had came over yet. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So they built that team around you essentially.
I guess,
I mean, being the first
kinda,
piece,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, man, to be honest with you, I thought I was going to go over to play wide receiver.
Mm.
Cause I was, my build, I was like, man, like that's when Megatron,
Yeah.
that's when he was doing his thing. I was like, I need to go over and play wide receiver.
Yeah.
But Coach Coker, he used to work with not Jason Williams, but got his name. He was a Hall of Fame defensive end for the Miami Dolphins.
Hmm.
Gosh, I forgot his name. But he was like, you remind me of him. And this is when like you have coaches that see things you don't see. So like that was interesting. He's like, no, you're going to play defensive end. I was like, okay.
Mhm.
And it ended up really working out. Did really well there, but it's something that I didn't see, and that was a really interesting transition.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I wanna transition to All in Fit.
yeah,
So for anybody who doesn't know, All in Fit, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Austin's #1 mobile performance gym.
yeah.
You bring people together from all walks of life, and CEOs and executives is kind of one of your.
Well, let me take a few steps back. So, I mean, that's the company. It's centered around bringing out the athlete within, high performance. I was a professional athlete, and when I transitioned from that, I went right into like training,
Mhm.
and naturally, I found training with business owners, CEOs, very interesting. Eventually, I saw a parallel between the two, and started doing house calls and just working with them and just seeing their habits and how they did everything, and that's when the brand was born. It was really just to focus on heightening the utmost value for the convenient service that people are familiar with. So house calls isn't anything like new. People have been doing that for years.
Right.
But it was about how can we create a value, super high value for people that need to save time. So I initially started working with business owners and CEOs like on an individual, semi-private basis. But the truck is really for anyone. Yeah, so it's for anyone that aspires to be better physically and mentally. We have a term we call the business athlete. So this doesn't necessarily mean that you are in business. A mom that a stay-at-home mom that has 3 kids, taking them to soccer practice, still has to cook, provide, whatever it is,
Taking
right?
care of business.
It's taking care of business,
Yeah.
right? That's where we come in, and we go to communities and we show up on site, and it's really cool, man. But yeah, it's the first and only mobile performance gym in Texas. Um, and
There's not many.
we're the first ones to bring it to market.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the only one in Austin.
Yeah. I think earlier you said, like the house calls and the mobile performance gym type business model is something that's been there for a while, not at the scale that you're doing it. If anybody out there is in Austin, you have to check it out. You're doing every Thursday at 6:30, right?
Yeah, downtown.
For the time being.
For the time being, we're going to be adding Saturday soon. So it's a drop-in class. So you can just come in, drop in, or like it operates just like a gym. We wanted to like create the gym experience brought to you. So for any gym you could think out there, you go and you get a membership, you could train and get like that back-end support. That's what we're doing. And so we have that on Thursdays and Saturdays in the downtown area, but we're also doing work in Cedar Park and North Austin as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So before All In Fit, then, like the creation of the business, when did that happen? I know it's fairly new. When did that happen? And was it like, did you already have this idea in mind? Maybe you were going through, school, or maybe you playing overseas and you had this idea, or was it more of a thing where you came here and you thought, this isn't a thing, this isn't a business model that I've seen before, and it's like a niche market that I can tap into? Because I think it suits you very, very well, and you've obviously, gotten so far with it so quickly.
Yeah, man. It's so I got released from football, from playing in the Canadian Football League after 3 years. Was there, started for 2 years, went back in the third year, and it was my best off season yet. Like I was bigger, faster, just everything was quicker, and got released, and that can be the game. And so that's when I really got a dose of, okay, like I'm doing all the right things. I'm busting my ass. I'm making the right calls. And that's when I got released and my head spun.
How did that affect you mentally? Like, how did you navigate that mentally?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm sure that's very, very tough.
Yeah, it's internalizing, man. And that's what I mean, of not being connected to purpose the way that I am today. This happens with a lot of not just athletes, but like anybody that's going down a road that's challenging and they're doing all the right things and they hit a wall. You internalize it, and kind of the thing that you're going after, it starts to become a part of you. When really it's just a part of life. Like things don't always work out. You got to just continue to push through. But yeah, man, that happened. I took that very hard. I was actually in a relationship at the time, so it was even tougher to kind of navigate. Try to stay up there in Canada and, continuing working out to get my next call to go to like another team. That didn't happen for a while. So I ended up coming back to Texas and San Antonio. And then I got a call, go to another team. I ended up turning that opportunity down and went back to the team that cut me the first time.
They wanted you back.
They wanted me back. Yeah. So the reason, I think kind of like, they don't ever really tell you the specifics, or they're not supposed to, like why you got cut. It's just,
did you have an idea?
I think that they thought that they could bring in younger defensive ends. So I signed for another year. I was there for 2 years. And at this time, I was done after my 2 years. I was going to go to the NFL. I had stats, had all these things. But that's something else we can circle back to. But it ended up not working out. I had an opportunity with the Dolphins, but they turned it down once they like looked up my history in college of like failing the drug test type thing. And so that didn't work out. So I ended up signing another deal with them. Got released that first time. Went back home to San Antonio. Got called by the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Shout out to Saskatchewan. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to the team. I'm familiar with the playbook. Also, my girlfriend at the time was there.
Your current wife?
No.
Okay.
No, this is ex-girlfriend.
Okay. You said at the time. Okay.
Yeah. Ex-girlfriend. But I was like, this checks all the boxes. I'm familiar with the city. Like everyone, they know me there. Let's go. Went there, 3 games, got released again. And this time I'm just like, oh man. So to make a long story short, fast forward, I was still there 6 months. This is when I was like, okay, none of my family ever moved out of San Antonio. So I was like, you know what, I can start something different being here. Let me look out for what's out there. Started I didn't start a gym, but I went to a gym, and he's like, yeah, the guy from here to CFL up there is like you're LeBron James.
Right.
Like that's, you know what I mean? It's that
Right.
same type of like feel. Obviously making a lot less, but it's, but that's, you know,
That's why we got all in fit.
that's the love and the respect that you get, you know, being there. And that ended up not working out, but I really did enjoy what I was doing. I was enjoying kind of building programs, looking at different like layouts of the gym and how we can make it better and just contributing in a business sense. So I wasn't just going there as a coach. I wanted to be kind of the head lead coach and help kind of develop the business. Then I'm not working out, came back, and you know, at this point, kind of bounced around a few jobs, um, started a partnership that failed in 2018. No, actually, yeah, that went from 2018 to 2019. But I started training. It's something that a lot of athletes do when they leave, and that's when it started. 2019, started training, and then I started working with business owners, CEOs, and I just saw that, hey, like it's not being done right now. Like it's not. Like I looked everywhere. Like how can we take this to the next level? I've always had a knack for creation and things like
So
that.
you were training without
I
the
was training
truck.
without the truck. Yeah, the
Okay.
truck. Yeah,
So
so
you're
I
just a strict
house
personal trainer.
calls. Yeah, yeah. At this time, just yeah, yeah. But yeah, just house calls. And but working with really rad people, really cool. Not just in the business sense, but like they're family men. You know, I learned from them, and that's kind of what you know kind of got me going, is by talking to these business athletes, right, and getting to learn from them. And you know, I turned sessions into a consult. I didn't turn it like intentionally, but like that's what it turned into. Because most business people you talk to,
What
that's
did
all
it
they
turn
talk.
into?
It turned like a constant. So I was training them, but it would turn into them giving me nuggets, and this was
Right.
like consistent.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I don't. I've learned something about myself. Like I want something more. I wasn't just looking at it as let me train you, teach you how to do a lunge or a push up, and help you lose weight. It was a very synergistic relationship because I was engaged and interested truly in them past what they were paying me to do. So through all of that, I just got ideas, and I was like, man, what about doing a mobile gym? And I couldn't find anything on the internet, nothing. And not just something you have a trailer, but like you haul equipment in, but something that's like it's functional. You can grab onto it. It feels like a gym. And couldn't find anything. And the gym is actually as of the past 6 months. So the company
It
started.
does not feel like it at all,
Yeah,
which is a
man.
great
Thank
thing.
you.
It's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I mean, it's so we started that about 6 months ago, and but before that, it was just house calls, and then we did community work. We're still doing that, non-truck services,
Mhm.
doing community work with that. You know what I mean? Yeah, and but the whole thing was like, how do we take convenience to the next level? It's not being done. How do we do that? So looked on the internet, couldn't find anything. We finally found one company out in the Midwest that had started building out these trucks. And we flew up
I
there,
didn't know
talked
that.
with them. Yeah. Yeah. So they started it. We're the first customer, so to speak. That's their business. It's like building out these trucks. And we said, hey, we're 100% mobile. So like this fits us like perfectly. And we went back, drew up things, got funding together, and made it happen. And you know, I was just really excited to do something different and unique. That's just kind of how my brain works. It annoys the hell out of my team, I'm sure, because I can kind of bounce from idea to idea to
Mhm,
idea.
mhm.
But that's what makes me me, and you know, and that's what I started leaning more into instead of like running away from it. I used to be told a lot of times when I was in football that like you think too much, you're overthinking it, Marlon. And I've been told this by my friends too, like you think too much, you're overthinking it, and I used to internalize it. You know, it eat me up. Like, man, what are you talking about thinking too much? Like, you know, but it's also what made me. I was a student of the game as a football player, as a basketball player. Loved watching film, very detailed. And then you know here we are with All Unfit.
So you got capital for the truck.
Yeah,
You raise
we
capital.
raised we raised a little bit of capital for the truck. Yeah, and did like a creative financing deal for the truck.
Okay.
And we threw like we've been of course throwing in some of our own money as well.
And at that point, you were still doing personal training, like house calls.
House calls. Yep, we're doing house calls. And I hired another coach to help
Mm-hmm.
kind of do the semi-private house call stuff while I was focusing on like the community classes that we do. Have a really cool class called the R&R fitness class, resistance and recovery. Been doing that and people have really been loving that. But that was it. But I was moving like, and I think everything like language is very important. So I always say we. I always say that like, we're a mobile fitness company. I don't ever tell anyone that like, hey, like I'm the mobile guy.
Yeah.
I really saw that we could do something amazing in this space. But that's what we were doing before that. But it was like how can we provide all these different services, without the truck. And so, we do metabolics, for instance, was one thing that we invested in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's one thing that interests me when you first told me and you brought it by the apartment. It's
mhm.
not just like a mobile gym. You've got is it the body spec? Is that
Oh
what it's
yeah, we
called? You've
got the
got
Staiku.
you got the Staiku in there. You're doing a lot of different things. So it's not like you just go out and get your workout. It's kind of an all encompassing performance.
Yes, that's exactly what we were going for. We since the beginning, there was no plans of getting a brick and mortar. It was like, we're going to lean into mobile all the way. How do we do that? What's some different things we can do? Well, we can bring metabolics and do resting metabolic tests at people's homes. We could bring the body composition analyzer,
Right.
without the truck and get a table and have people do body composition analysis and give them some customized programming from that. It was all about like a comprehensive offering to our clients. That's what it's about.
So I want to set the stage there and talk about risk
Mhm.
because did you meet your wife, your current wife, at that time when you were a personal trainer without the truck? Did you? Or
Yeah,
you were
we met
dating?
in 2018. She shout out to my wife Christiana. She's amazing, but she during this time before that, I was bouncing around. I was trying to get my own business going at that time. And it just wasn't taking off. So she's like, why don't you come to Austin? I'm here. You can go like at Lifetime and it's in the force. So I finally, kicking and screaming, I came to Austin to do that and haven't looked back. So yeah, we met in 2018.
Cool. So, like on the topic of risk, I'm sure that the C-suites and those guys that you were training beforehand probably talked about it. You obviously have a high risk tolerance, and that's a big risk, right? I
Yeah.
mean, capital up front, lots of people, relying on you. At that point in time, obviously, like what was your mindset, I guess you would say, jumping into it? You were like, this has to work, this is going to work, or did you have people around you that were maybe, saying, hey, you might want to wait, hey, you shouldn't do this? How was that kind of time period of your life?
Man, that's a great question because I haven't thought about that in a while. But and this is from people that is closest to me, business people. Some of them, I'm not going to say their names, of course, but and not just them, but a lot of other people, a lot of doubters. No one's ever seen this. A lot of questions. Well, where are you going to put it? And where are you going to do this? And where are you going to do that? And that was hard, to because it messes with your head. Like, okay, maybe this is a dumb idea, and I shouldn't do it because these
Mm-hmm.
people are more experienced than me in business. But I think, man, once I have my mind set on something, there's really no turning back. It's a scary thing.
Yeah.
The gift and the curse sometimes, just because, the gift part of it is like, hey, like I started something that no one else has done, pretty much in the nation, and we're doing that right now, and it's amazing. The other part of it is, well, sometimes you need to leave from an idea to go and do the other better idea, right? And so, but yeah, man, I think I don't think about it too much. I think now I'm a bit more. I guess I have a better framework for risk now that I have more experience. and how we should go about if we're going to invest into this equipment or if we're going to go in this area into this market. But initially, you got to have a little bit of naiveness. Like you got to be a little bit of like a little bit of crazy, for like a way of
Yeah.
saying it, to start something like this. No one else has really done it. So I think that I was nervous. I was. There are doubts, but I ignored them. Kind of just pushed through them. And I said, look, like, this is Austin, Texas. This is, there's other companies out there that have done it and have proven that people like to work out in parks. They like the
Yeah.
outdoors, the great outdoors and things like that. It's just that no one else has tried this, right?
Right.
So, I think it was all about, okay, how can we put a team together to facilitate this and make sure that we can be successful. You try to prep yourself up as much as possible. But yeah, man, I think I've always been a risk taker. Always to my own demise, like to the point of like, just try to different dodge, drug tests or whatever, and milk the whatever. Like that's always who I've been, just all in, all the way, and that's kind of how we came up with the name a little bit. Is that's how you have to be, just all in and, obviously do your due diligence. But if you're going to start something like this, or you're going to start something big that's going to leave a huge impact, can't be afraid of risks.
Right.
Can't be afraid of risks. And you got to be willing to continue to go no matter what, and no matter how much doubt. And that's been who I've been my whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, over the period of time when you were 18 to where you're at now, they're two completely different people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're talking about with the failing drug tests and you doing this and that, to now it's like you talked about operating within a framework.
Mm-hmm.
I learned this the other day on some Instagram reel, and it pertains to this pretty well. It's like the bird, they can live up to 70 years. Around the half, yeah, it's crazy. Around the halfway mark, their body starts to deteriorate. So they have like a crossroad. They can either stay the same and they'll die, or it's a 150-day process where they smash their beak against a wall for 15 days until it falls out and it grows back. And then they pluck their talons out and they pluck their feathers out and it regrows.
Wow.
So that allows them to obviously live a lot longer and all that stuff. But there comes a point where at the 40 to 50 year mark where they're either going to die. They have to make that hard decision. And like I said, that whole process of, rejuvenating their own body takes 150 days, but it's a hard thing. So like for you, did you feel like there was a point where you were maybe fed up with yourself, or you were, your self-image was kind of, broken from the actions that you were doing leading up to that point? And then, what did you do mentally to say, okay, I'm going to make this change because I need to become this person?
Yeah. To be honest with you, a lot of those moments of thought, were very frequent. So there was a lot of times where I was just like, I had enough, right? That's it. Like I need to change my life. I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm gonna do more of that. And it's like that monkey on your back, man. So for a long time, I mean, I've done that several times because I'm very hot and cold. Like, I'm all in. Can't tell me anything. Very stubborn sometimes, but that's happened many, many different times. I think of one time in particular, and this is when things changed for me. Was when before my wife and I got married. I just had a day where it was on a Monday, man. I was just drinking, and just she tried to pick me up. We got into an argument, and it was just I had no reason for doing that, right? There was nothing going on particularly, but I'm always in, all in mode. And I think oftentimes you hit a wall, you don't know why. And so, everyone, I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I do that. That was me for 31 years, 30
Wow.
years, right? 3 decades, not 3 decades, but, since 18. to about 30 years old. That was me. And, she asked me the question, was like, do you ever just go out in the park and like listen to the birds and smell the flowers and
That hits hard.
do this type of thing? And it was like a foreign concept to me. I was like, no, I don't. It got me emotional because I was like, so after that, I got therapy. And I found out and I started really sitting with the high performance term. And that's when I started realizing that, wow, have I been disconnected this whole time from this? And I just started to lean into that. Obviously, it's a work in progress, but that was a turning point. That was, before we got married, so it had to be we were married for 2 years. So probably, 3 years ago, something like that, where I started doing that and started really, acknowledging my relationship with my dad, for instance. And that went down to, oh yeah, he used to criticize you a lot. And oh yeah, do you remember when you were 12 and you were wearing a size 9, but you were a size 13? I was doing things subconsciously at a young age. It was just nothing ever to my detriment because I hadn't been introduced to, alcohol and weed yet. But at that time, I was doing that, and no one knew that for the longest amount of time until we went to Just for Feet, and they're like, your son is a size 13, right? She's like, what? Didn't know. I was squeezing my shoes. So I was doing a lot of things for validation. I was, always been tall, and I started to walk with a hunch. Didn't know, never knew why. It wasn't until later where people were like, dude, why do you, and now like I walk a little taller because I'm more aware about it. Like it's cool to be tall. But that's what I was doing for a while. And I would get into relationships I shouldn't have been in, do things I shouldn't have done. And it wasn't until that time where I really started to connect, like, oh, this makes sense. I have this, working hard is easy for me to do. That's not my challenge. My challenge is, how am I connecting with myself? What's my relationship with the things that I'm doing? And I started to ask myself these questions, get therapy, and I got better and asked more questions. And so that's when things started to change. And that's when I just looked at things differently, like with myself and how we help our clients and how we might coach or how I may give advice. Like I look at everyone as like, everyone's a work in progress, but like I think we stay too much on the surface level, like black and white. What you see is what you get. There's so much to uncover. There's so many reasons why someone does what they do. And that's what I connected with myself. And that's when things change. And I started to look at business differently. And so that was only like 3 years ago.
So going through that, would you have any advice to maybe like a younger audience or anybody for that matter on how to dig into those deeper layers and how to start discovering, those things and stop looking at a surface level? I think that's something that a lot of people could benefit from.
I think the best thing to do and are the simplest things. So, excuse me, I've been doing, breath work, and a lot of people are familiar with that. I only do 5 minutes daily. And that's just so I can ground myself and actually listen and be aware of what's going on. Secondly, being around, for me, it was being around business people. I had an affinity to business. I just love it. Love the creation process. And, that was my community. So I got to learn from them, from how they were with their kids and seeing their kids come in the garage and would lift dumbbells and like they're like 4 years old.
Yeah.
That was inspiring to me. And then also to see them leave from that and go and crush it at work and crush the workouts with us. Is like, this is the whole package. So, definitely being still. All right. And when you're still and you're quiet, however you do that, if that's in your room, if that's in a sauna, like that quietness, there's a time where, and I still do this to this day, where I'm always listening to a podcast, I'm reading a book, or I'm watching something or working. And I'm just like, man, Marlon, why don't you just stop and just be with yourself? And that's my time in the morning. So I'm layering it on I am by no means arrived anywhere, but I'm figuring it out. And I think awareness is the first key. And that's why I said that's the first thing is like sit with yourself, get quiet, be aware. Second thing, get around a community of people that are that you aspire to be like. You don't have all the answers. Most people don't. The best thing to do is to go to people that do. And so that's what I've done. And then this is a process that, it comes at different points for everybody. Find you something that you could do, learn a skill and just do it. You don't have to be your passion, but I think that, I'm a very spiritual, God fearing man. And so I think that like your dreams will make room for you in the process. But
Mm.
start something and lean into it. It doesn't matter if it's for a year or two. Those three things right there, awareness, community, and really lean into something that like you're good at or that you feel like you can do in the short term or long term. And that's when that purpose comes in.
Mhm. I think now, especially a lot of people, the issue is yes, getting started, but it's also choosing what to get started on. And I could attribute that to social media. There's so many different things you can do. You're seeing people doing X, Y, Z, and you're like, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And it almost puts you in a state of analysis paralysis.
Oh yeah.
That's where, like, obviously I'm very young, very ambitious, not entirely sure what that avenue is yet, right? There's a few things that I love to do, and I feel like I'm finding that now, starting to get on the right track. I feel like a lot of people are in the same position where they just have no clue where to start.
Mm-hmm.
And would you have any insight or advice to that? I mean, I know that you already kind of had your fitness and performance gym, mindset. You've always been around the space that you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have any advice to somebody trying to figure out what they want to do or how to bring that up out inside of them, or how to figure out what it is that they could do?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the stuff, again, is simple. They always say that common sense isn't common practice.
Mm.
So it's the little things, but you just have, like, for me personally, I'll just give like my experience, because I've had that too, and I have, it's a never ending journey. But I just started to look at like, what have I done? What was I doing at 10? What was I doing at 20?
Mm-hmm.
What was I doing at 30? What's something I really like to do? What are things that I just have an infinity towards? And you can start to connect the dots and see that it's underneath your nose for like what
Mm.
you may be destined to do, or at least start, like a starting point, like your purpose, right? Who says it that who was it? The two most important days of your life is when you're born, and when you find, and second is when you find out why.
Yeah. I don't know who said it, but
Man, Mark Twain.
yeah.
So yeah, I think Mark Twain.
Was it Mark Twain?
I think
On
so.
Joe Rogan? I saw it on Joe Rogan. Maybe somebody's quoting Mark
Yeah,
Twain.
yeah, I think so.
Somebody's quoting Mark Twain. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember that. So that's two things. So, you're born, and then the day you find out why. That's different for everybody. I think too many people are looking at the person, and I do this too. Like, I look at like where my boys are at. They're successful business owners. All my clients are successful, like, business owners, execs, things like that. And I'm just like, why am I not there yet? Like, why am I not? Like, am something wrong with me?
Yeah.
But I think that the main thing is don't get caught in analysis paralysis. Steve Jobs said, like, hey, like, at least we were making decisions. Like, we make decisions, like take action, make decisions, and things are gonna come off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that's making decisions is gonna outpace and be further along down the line than the person that's making one decision every 2 years or 1 year, like whatever it is, right? Just thinking about stuff. So that's a process, man. But I think it's underneath your nose. Just connect the dots and look for some type of silver lining. And say, you know what? I do cook a lot. Oh, you know what? I do like to work out a lot. Or
Yeah.
hey, like, people have asked me for advice. Like my wife, for instance, she's an attorney, and like before we met, before she was going to go down that path, like everybody confides in her. Like everybody, like the family, it doesn't matter. They're calling her. Who's calling you? Oh, this is such and such. What do y'all talk about? Oh, she just wanted to talk about like this is what's in her, encoded
Mhm.
in her. I think everyone's born with that. It's all in you. It's just getting quiet to like listen to that inner voice. And and that's something that again, like I didn't do for so long. I was gifted, I worked hard, and those are the things working hard is what you have to do. But if you don't know why, you're gonna crash, man. You're gonna run into something eventually, and it happened to me so many times. And so just sit quiet and actually just take a breath. Everything's not as bad as it seems. You might seem very lost, but I'm telling you, just continue to press on and look for that silver lining.
Mhm.
It's right underneath you.
I think that's the hardest thing, though, is you said get quiet.
Hmm.
There's a lot of noise out there,
So
a
much.
lot of noise on these things.
Yep.
And it's like, can bring some mental issues, some mental, yeah, downfalls that come along with comparison
Oh yeah.
and, being on social media too much because there's, like I said, there's just so many different things going on and a lot of examples of people who are doing something that are either your age or younger than you. And subconsciously you're wanting to be there like now or like yesterday. That's something that I absolutely struggled with. But having conversations with you and meeting other people, it's like, okay, I don't have it figured out and that's fine. As long as I'm moving somewhere. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The KFC dude didn't start that business until he was like 75 years old.
Do you
something like
really?
that. Yeah, there's a guy in Houston, 96. No, don't wait till you're 90s. But he's 96 years. He's done other things. He's just always wanted to start a barbecue place. And it's in Houston. And so, everybody's timeline is different. The comparison thing, I think everyone struggles with that a little bit. But I like to think of it as like, man, we are all connected. Like I've been really into, I don't know if you saw the Joe Rogan podcast with Terrence Howard.
Oh yeah.
I watched that whole
I
thing.
love Terrence Howard.
Yeah. I didn't know this guy was like a genius. Like,
Mhm.
geez, man, it was just fascinating to me. But, we're all, I forgot why I was trying to connect that there to the Terrence Howard thing. It was a purpose why I was bringing that up.
Are you referencing the where he said like we're all connected in our consciousness?
Yes, there we go.
In a sense that
Yeah.
you could, I think what he said, the analogy was you can think of consciousness as like a radio tower. So you have like a radio tower emitting a frequency at one centralized point,
Mhm.
and then you have all the channels that you flip through that are tuned to a different frequency, but it's coming from one place.
Yes.
So we're all just different frequencies, but
Right.
we're the same
That
overall.
exactly.
consciousness.
Yes. Thanks for bringing that back home, dude.
I'm passionate about this stuff all day. So
Consciousness.
yeah.
One consciousness. And I was talking to my wife about this. I talked about everything and I'm just like, if we think of the world and ourselves like that, we are more connected than even to not even on a human level, to like the birds, the eagles.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
one consciousness means one consciousness. So whatever you think is more than likely just in your own head. Like if you think, oh man, that person has this, has that, or man, they're so confident. I remember asking one of my friends I play football with. He's an attorney now, injury law firm attorney, and he is the type of guy that comes in a room. He's just very loud and just like overly confident, and it's like, yeah, bro, I got like that. Everyone has
Yeah.
that type of person. I finally asked him one day after like 10 years, like, bro, why are you so confident like that? He's like, I don't know. I just he said he basically admitted that like, dude, I have my shit. Like I what you're seeing is just how I operate, how I choose to operate in society, in circles. That's who he is. And that's how he's always been. But like to the outside looking in, it's like, why do I have that? That's his own thing. You know what I mean? Like everybody is trying to connect, right? So to look at someone else and what they're doing and saying, why don't I have that? Or what do they have that I don't have? You just got to realize that they're more like you than you know. They really are. It's just that they're on a different frequency tune, like to that radio tower thing. And so that's how I like to look at things now. So now what's crazy is that like I'm blessed to be around a lot of successful people, my clients, a lot of successful clients. But I used to like be going to their houses to train them and everything and like see the Lamborghini or see this. And I'm just like, some reason I felt bad about myself for where I was at, even though it's like, dude, you're their coach. You've been training with them for
Yeah.
years. Y'all have had many conversations. They probably see themselves in you.
Right.
But for a while, it was just like, man, I'm not one of, because when you're trying to aspire to go to another level, it seems like you're never going to get there. Like I've been at this almost 6 years, and if you want to count before that, of like failed partnership and jobs that just never really stuck, and football that didn't work out, I feel like I've been failing my whole life. I was literally in the barbershop chair about to tear up because I was like, I just don't feel successful.
Mm.
And then it takes someone else to say, dude, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, look at what you're doing, this, that, and the fourth. But like internally, like that's when that internalizing thing comes that's so dangerous because it will land you in bad spots because you're going to start to kind of hit walls and then you'll tumble and you'll go and do things and you won't know why. It's because of your relationship with yourself. Like that's the thing. And so that was kind of going back to what you said earlier, that was really the turning point for me. It's just getting aware with that. And just, now it's just like, hey, this is who I am. I'm a thinker. Sometimes it's going to work out. Sometimes it doesn't, but this is who I am. And this is how I choose to show up. As long as I'm not screwing anybody over, fuck you. If you got something to say, like it's just, this is who I am. And I think it's working out and it will work out as long as you just keep learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Super insightful.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about here is work-life balance.
Yeah.
Because obviously you were working a 16-hour day yesterday. You texted me at like midnight, like, hey, I just got home.
Yeah.
I know you wake up real early too. You got a wife,
mm-hmm.
Do you plan to have kids?
We plan to have kids, 2 years probably.
Okay. Yeah. Plan on having a family. I mean, I think it's a blessing to have Christiana by your side working with you through
Absolutely.
this. I think there's a common theme when there's two partners and one decides to do something. It's almost like it starts to do this, and you kind of go one way and one kind of stays the same. And
right.
There comes a lot of conflict there. I mean, I don't understand it myself. I'm not in that position. So again, it's beautiful that she's there with you to kind of help you up. But how do you handle the work-life balance? Because you're doing this full time now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I love that question because I think balance is the word that we need to get rid of. Yeah, I think, and if we kept it, I would say that be in harmony with all the shit that's going on in your life, and that goes back to sitting still. So to start a business, whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is. I just speak to business because that's what I do, but it's going to require a lot of your time. It's going to require a lot of, you're going to be stressed. You're going to be pushed. Like those are also the things that catapult us to the next level. So I think that being in harmony with all the different things is an important thing. Figure out a way to optimize your schedule, your life to where you're never giving up too much of yourself to any particular one thing. Now, with business, it's you got to focus 110% of your time and energy and focus on that. But part of the reason I created All In Fit was to work with people that have very demanding schedules. They're limited on time. They, are high performers. They have a team responsible for that. To your point, you have a family, you have all these things. And like, how can they do that, work out, have time for church, have time for their wife, have time for their kids, and, perform? And how do you do that, right? And so it's being in harmony. It's not balance per se, because there's nothing that's really balanced if you think about it.
Right.
Like we live in a very imbalanced
That
world.
makes sense.
A
Yeah.
very, but it's fair, you know, and that's like where God comes in and everything that I lean on, you know, so much these days. But it is, you know, how do you just kind of just be fluid, you know, through with all of that and be okay being stressed. I think there's a thing out there right now, like let me take my mental health day and let me go and pack up in a van and, you know, take a, you know, vacation for 60 days and like, and you come back and you're broke and you don't have nothing. It's like they were, and there's nothing wrong with people that do that, by the way. I would love to do that. So I don't want to kind of, you know, come off like I'm coming down on people that want to do that. Do you? I'm just saying, do it for the right reasons. Like, don't do it because you're trying to seek balance, or you're trying to manage your stress, or you're trying to just let me have a mental health day. Life's fucking tough.
Yeah.
Accept it as fact. Figure out a way to optimize your life. Do some of those things we talked about earlier. Create that awareness for yourself. Breathe. Get around people that are doing better than you, and take action. And action is going to lead to purpose. And so I think the most important thing is being okay with being stressed, being okay with being a little sore. That's why I love sports so much. It's like, it's so the team camaraderie in that. It's like blood, sweat, and tears. Like shit is not going to go your way.
Yeah.
How are you going to respond? And so you got to be in harmony. You got to have a relationship with the work. I didn't have a relationship with the work. So what happened? I was in balance. But when I have a relationship with the work, I can work the same amount of hours, 16 hours here, have a relationship with it, 16 hours here. I don't have a relationship with it. This is going to go down. The person that has a relationship and with it and is in harmony with it. I'll say another thing is I was watching YouTube videos, this billionaire. And he said, there's not a lot of people, you usually hear work hard, put in 100 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Everywhere.
Everywhere. What you don't hear is if you're working over 40 hours a week, and this is a billionaire, you're not doing it right. He said he works 40 hours a week, and he's a billionaire, has a company, is kicking ass, has other companies. He said, you're not doing it right. So that stuck with me. That stuck with me. Rob Dyrdek, by the way.
Love Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah.
Shout out Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah, because he'll give you some good nuggets on that whole like optimum thing. He works 40 hours a week too, and is working more and producing more and has more workload. Shoots 300 episodes of
he's got a podcast
ridiculousness.
Now, right?
I'm sure he does. He's figured it out. He takes his wife out to sushi every week. You know, he's working out. He's shooting stuff. He's in real estate. He's developing things, and he works 40 hours a week. How is that possible? And how is he still able to seem like Rob Dyrdek? He doesn't look too stressed every time you see him.
Yeah.
His guy's almost 50 years old now, if he's not, you know? So I think that's the main thing, man. We got to really be careful about how we view balance.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic. I've never heard it, you know, put in that way. And I think it's something that a lot of people get wrong. You know, you hear all these stories about these famous people, multi-millionaires, even billionaires, and they're, you know, committing suicide or they have really bad mental issues. And it's like, you didn't see that coming. You thought they were, you know, fantastic. They got the car, the house, the materialistic things. They've got the fame. They have everything. What they don't have is the relationship with themselves.
Yes.
So I think everything you just said is like spot on. And I think it's something that you should definitely pick up earlier rather than later, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And
so I appreciate that.
If you don't know it, if you don't have it in you to kind of seek that in yourself, go do the community thing, man. Go connect with the people that you aspire to be like. Mm-hmm. And if you can't connect with them, listen to their podcast. Go get their book. Watch their YouTube. And things will start to come to you. So if I say I've done one thing right is I really lean into that. I've been around good people that are doing better than me, and I listen to them. And I just try to emulate their strategies and their philosophies to, you know, my own way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, bro.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, I think that's a great point to end off. This has been a fantastic conversation. Lots of great golden nuggets for both myself and anybody watching, I'm sure. I want to leave the audience with one thing. From your perspective, if you could give something very short, something very sweet, as a piece of advice for somebody just trying to come up. Doesn't matter what they're trying to do. They're ambitious. They're just trying to come up. What would you leave them with?
Ambitious, trying to come up. What is the one piece of advice that I would give them? This sounds just so simple, but whatever you do, do not give up. Um, that's it, man. The person that does not give up usually wins. And it's tough to do because you got to get up, go out there, try. Shit doesn't work. Do it again the next day. And this is me over the past 10 years of feeling like a failure and, not leaving on my own terms from football. And then starting a company or a partnership that failed, and then starting this company and unforeseen things. I didn't give up. I kept going. And that's really the best thing. And I know we hear that 1,000 times, but that's the one thing I would say is the most important thing in business or whatever you're trying to do is just don't give up.
That's great. Where can they find you?
You can find, so All In Fit LLC is Instagram. You can also follow Marlon_the athlete for our personal page. Check out our website, allinfitllc.com. And just kind of see the cool things we're doing, and appreciate your support. And this is awesome, man.
And check them out 6:30 on Thursday.
Yeah, 6:30 Thursdays.
It's great.
Yeah. Come and vibe out with us, man. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. We'll see you there.